Maximising Agri-tourism opportunities. And we are just waiting for everybody to get into the room, and we will take it from there. Good morning, everybody. And B-Link Innovation Series. We're just waiting for everybody to join us online, and I will give that another minute or so, or 30 seconds, and we will actually start. Innovation Series, B-Link, Maximizing Agri-tourism opportunities. I think we're going to start. And good morning, everybody. Kia ora. And welcome to Lincoln University. Welcome to B-Link Innovation. And this is the last innovation series of this calendar year, but do not worry, we will be back next year with a really exciting lineup of events. So if you're really curious, just after this one, just go to our website and check them out. But I'll come back to that a little bit later on as well. Today, we're going to talk about maximizing agri-tourism opportunities, and we have a lineup of wonderful speakers, but I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. This innovation series is being brought to you by B-Link Innovation, and B-Link Innovation is a full business unit of Lincoln University. And what we do is we connect people, and this is one of the reasons why we are organizing a lot of events, so we can actually bring people together. And the beauty is when people actually start to talk to each other, they start to collaborate. And when people start collaborating and are passionate about the same topic, then definitely innovation actually happens almost by itself. Today, we will have a virtual innovation event. So I hope that everybody knows where their emergency exits are in the place that they are currently sitting. The webinar will be recorded, will be emailed out to you. And there is a Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. So if you move your mouse, you will see that appearing. And please feel free to ask questions, and we will have a Q&A session after the speakers have spoken. Without further ado, if you want to get social with us, please do so, and please use our social media channels. And now I would like to introduce the first speaker. And Joanna is actually a colleague of mine, and we've been working together already a couple of times. And Joanna is an associate professor here at the Department for Tourism, Sport and Society. And she says, yes, she has so many different interests, and she is able to combine these interests into really solid and good points of view. So I'm really eager to hear what Joanna has to tell us this morning. So I will stop sharing my screen, and I will give the floor to Joanna. Joanna, you are muted.
Yeah, I knew that I was just getting my presentation going. So hopefully you can all see that now in proper mode. Yeah, so thank you for that, Wim. It's great to be here and be able to talk about some issues around agri-tourism. I'm focusing in particular on some kind of, I guess, opportunities that are emerging potentially out of the post-COVID, ongoing COVID experience. So as Wim said, I have quite a few research interests, and I put this slide up here not to overload people with some of the things I do, but just to recognize that my insights around agri-tourism come from a range of different sources. I include this photo here because I think it captures a lot of the things I enjoy about agri-tourism, rural settings, relaxing, glasses of wine. And it's just by chance today, actually, that the third speaker today is from Tawanui Farm Glamping, Tim Laughlin. That's one of his photos from his sites. I'm part of a number of projects that are based in rural environments, and what that means is that I come to agri-tourism from a range of different perspectives. So while I am employed as a tourism researcher, my background is rural social science. And so for me, when I'm looking at agri-tourism, I'm looking at it in the context of understanding how can we diversify rural economies for greater resilience. So what can we do to ensure that our rural and regional parts of New Zealand have greater economic, cultural, social, environmental sustainability? So for me, tourism is a tool for achieving some of those outcomes, for achieving rural resilience around diversifying incomes, economies, but it's also a tool for primary producers as a way to create value and markets for produce through sort of strengthening agri-food value chains, shortening agri-food value chains, maybe maintaining better control of one's stories of provenance and so on. And so agri-tourism is a way for achieving all of those things. Now, just moving on to think about what is agri-tourism. I think traditionally when we think about agri-tourism, we think about it in terms of farm tourism. So, and that's understandable, agri-tourism. But for me, I take a broader perspective on agri-tourism. So for me, agri-tourism is where agriculture and tourism intersect. So yes, while it does include what we would traditionally view as farm-based tourism, it is actually broader than that. It includes tourism that revolves around agricultural or agri-food products, or tourism that occurs in an agricultural backdrop. So yes, while it still does include, as I said, going off to the farm and watching sheep being shorn, or watching heading dogs round up a mob of sheep, it is broader than that as well. My down button's not working. There we go. And I think part of the reason for a broadening focus on agri-tourism is because of the changing nature of tourism as well. So many tourism academics and market commentators would say that, since the maybe 70s and 80s, tourism has definitely shifted from being about sightseeing, about capturing sites, about taking photos of remarkable scenery, to actually being more focused on having memorable experiences. So obviously, particularly with social media, taking photos is still a really important part of tourism. But most people want to come away not just with a photo of a beautiful river, but with an experience of maybe whitewater rafting down that river, or bungee jumping towards that river. It has, tourism has moved in general towards, engaging more of the senses, if possible, all of the senses. So sight, smell, touch, sound, and agri-tourism can engage all of those senses. In fact, any tourism that includes food and drink is automatically engaging with those sort of taste sensations and the smell sensations that are so important to kind of the human experience. I think that agri-tourism, as I said, is growing in scope, and I think it's also becoming increasingly professional, with recognition that to do agri-tourism well, it does require a different skill set from doing farming well, or doing food production well. And increasingly, I think we're seeing a strengthening of the links between the agricultural sector and the tourism sector. So, the Ministry of Primary Industry now are interested in agri-tourism for their for primary producers. Just before I go further, I just wanted to mention this agri-tourism modularized workbook, I think we'd call it. This is a culmination of the post-quake farming project I was involved in North Canterbury. It is freely available online. So if you are interested in learning more about agri-tourism, this has been put together by Craig Wilson and myself, and it does take you step by step through the stages of being involved in agritourism. I will be presenting some information from this guidebook. But yes, I do encourage you, if you are interested in thinking about getting involved in agritourism, do check this out. It links to a lot of other resources from around the world. You're starting off from saying, you know, does my husband/wife want me to be involved in agritourism, in terms of making the decision to be involved? So I think, as I mentioned, you know, we still do have farm-based agritourism. It's still an important part of the overall agritourism product. As I said, that might involve cycleways through farmland. It might involve pure pods or other accommodation venues on farmland. You know, the classic Devonshire tea at a heritage farmhouse. You know, tractor rides through the corn and rounding up sheep. But it's also much broader than that now. So just from that modularized book I showed you, here are just some of the ways that we divided agritourism. You know, we discussed it in terms of stay, play, taste, and learn. And I'm not going to go through all of those categories, but you can see that, you know, if you have a farm or a rural property where you're producing food or nuts or whatever, there are a range of ways that you can use that amenity to create tourism experiences. So, you know, pick your own fruit and vegetables as an option. Foraging for food, weddings, functions, ecological restoration projects. So all of these can be part of agritourism. I think one thing we found really interesting when we put this together is when we started to actually unpack what was included, particularly in the learn category, we realized there were so many different ways that agritourism could connect to learning experiences. Things like, you know, working with a photographer to host photography sessions on your property, crafts using sort of natural fibres, perhaps. Yeah, just a whole lot of different things. And we have just here along the bottom some photos that I had taken through my research. Actually, the first one, the Bluff Oyster Festival, wasn't by me, but you can see, you know, participating at buying food at farmers markets, taking a tour of a brewery or a winery, going and, you know, doing the hard work of tasting beer as part of my research project. And down at the bottom here, we have yoga in the vineyard. So yeah, there are lots of different types of agritourism and lots of ways that you can, I guess, create innovative and new experiences. Why get involved in agritourism? If you're a food producer or farmer, lots of potential reasons, but, you know, again, you know, it's up to every property owner or food producer to think whether it's right for them. It's not right for everyone, but it does provide a way of diversifying income, provides employment opportunities, maybe for family members. The early days of farm tourism, particularly farm stays and bed and breakfasts, many farmers said that they enjoyed welcoming guests onto their farm to stay, partly for the social opportunities and the opportunities to meet people from all over the world. And it was often mentioned that it was partly about, you know, their rural kids getting exposure to, you know, a wide range of cultures and experiences. It can also be a way of creating brand loyalty and brand recognition, particularly if the products that you are showcasing in your agritourism are things that can be purchased either online or in retail outlets. I think increasingly, though, people involved in agritourism are seeing it as a way of maintaining control of their brand story. Many farmers I know that are becoming involved in agritourism are, you know, saying, you know, we see it as a good way of maybe bridging the urban-rural divide. We want to show what we're doing around ecological sustainability, you know, maintaining our environment, replanting our environment. Obviously, it's an alternative distribution channel. And as I said before, agritourism can be a way of utilising the amenity value of your agricultural assets. And again, there is demand for these types of experiences. I would like to stress at this point that actually being involved in tourism doesn't need to mean that you're doing all the work. So, you think about working with a photographer or a weaver, or someone who might be able to use facilities on your property to engage in their own activities. So again, there are a range of opportunities there. I guess the next thing I just wanted to mention was, it's all very well saying that there is more demand, but where is the evidence? And I think the next slides I have presented before. And during 2020, I was part of a series of webinars looking at what impact will COVID have on, I guess, tourist behaviour. And at that stage, I put together a kind of list of things that I thought in 2020 I could see happening. This was based on both sort of anecdotal evidence, but also what some other academics were writing. Looking at it now from the perspective of 2022, I think most of these are still relevant and things that we are seeing happening. I don't in any way want to downplay the difficulty that COVID and COVID lockdowns had for many, many people and many families. I mean, it wasn't an easy time, but there have been some trends that have come out of it that I think may support the development of agri-tourism. So, for example, many of you will have seen there seems to be a huge demand, increasing demand for vegetable gardening, home vegetable gardening. And in fact, after the COVID lockdown, the gardening suppliers, Oderings, Bunnings and so on, sold 6 weeks worth of vegetable plants within one weekend. Many online seed retailers sold out during lockdown. So I think, getting back to basics or, enjoying the simple life, going back to gardening, cooking from scratch, again, lockdown and forced many of us to go back to cooking. But again, foraging as well and picking your own food are all things that are part of a trend we're seeing potentially to get back from basics, turn off the phone and get out into nature. The quotes you can see on the right there are from a Guardian newspaper article where they talk to hundreds of New Zealanders about what they thought the results of lockdown would be on their lives. So I'm not going to focus on those, but they are just some quotes from a very specific group of New Zealanders, that is Guardian newspaper readers. I think another trend that started well before COVID, but has definitely continued, is this focus on well-being. Well-being not just for ourselves and our whānau, but for our communities, our flora and fauna, and for the planet as a whole. So you can't really listen to anything these days without mention of climate change, without mention of ecological sustainability. But the focus on well-being is also increasingly being focused on staff, on food producers. So during the COVID lockdown in particular, it was recognised that, while the supermarkets were still operating, many of the outlets that were important to small scale and boutique food producers like fruit and vegetable shops, farmers markets actually weren't operating. So a concern about well-being across the whole value chain. Again, part of that focus on well-being has also seen an increased desire to know where our food is produced and how our food is produced. Again, that was happening before COVID, but I think it's continued, that desire to know about animal welfare, about chemicals in our foods, and so on. The third and related point, I think, to both the previous two trends is around the desire to love local. So obviously, COVID and border restrictions meant that many of us got out and explored our own backyard. Much more interest in maybe looking after Te Taio, the environment, supporting local businesses, and again, part of that wellness, learning where our food comes from and going out and meeting the food producers and finding out more about food provenance. Now, I'm aware I've got 5 minutes left. So is there any evidence for this? This huge desire for local agri-tourism products? One of the most recent surveys I've done was a panel survey conducted throughout New Zealand in 2020, late 2020, that looked at travel patterns since October 2019. A reasonable size sample of 327. You can see the spread of where people were from. So these were all people visiting Huranui in North Canterbury. We asked them what they did during their last trip to Huranui. And I think looking through that list, you can see how many of them have something to do with food, with drink, whether that's lunch or a restaurant meal, or visiting a farmer's market, or buying food or wine from a local producer. Again, cycling on a trail or off-road may also involve agri-tourism experiences. Another question that we looked at is, if we asked them if these activities were available in Huranui, how interested would you be in participating in them? The column you really want to look at there is the very appealing, converting those people to purchase an experience is probably quite is quite achievable generally. But I think there again, you can see the appeal of food, farms, wineries, and a night sky, again, all of which could be part of an agri-tourism experience. So in the last few minutes, I just want to briefly talk about responding to some of the opportunities we have around agri-tourism. I mean, one thing that is really important, I think, is, agri-tourists are wanting to fulfill certain needs. They're wanting to connect increasingly to people, to heritage, to places. They're wanting to hear stories of those people, that heritage and places. They're wanting to socialise, particularly after COVID. Food and drink has always been associated with manaakitanga and hospitality and socialising and telling stories in the context of food and drink. They want to learn and to pass on learning, maybe to their kids. They want to learn new skills, have new experiences, get new cultural understandings. And again, they're wanting to support local businesses and communities. So there's a possibility through agri-tourism to combine those kind of desires into a range of memorable experiences. And I'm also really keen on seeing that, agri-tourism experiences, food, drink, farm experiences, are inclusive rather than exclusive. So it's not just the high-end market we want to be reaching to. There's a range across the range of incomes and distributions that we can offer agri-tourism experiences to. So the final couple of slides just look at how we can achieve that. One thing we know is that tourists, particularly domestic tourists, are looking for deeper experiences. Again, going beyond just taking photos to actually learn about places and people and practices. So, telling the stories of sustainable farming practices, of ecological regeneration, stories of agricultural heritage, community heritage, and family heritage are all really appealing to tourists. And again, telling stories of food provenance. Tourists are also looking for new experiences. So here are just a range of some experiences. So Hook is an opportunity down Wanaka Way where you can hire a fishing guide for $35 and go fishing, or you can hire just the rod and reel and for $9 and go out and perhaps teach your grandson, your granddaughter how to fish. And tourists also want to connect. They want to see, they want to connect with food producers and agri-tourism providers, but they also want to see evidence of your connections with other people. So highlighting your relationships with other producers or other tourism providers. The role of networking, I think, in rural tourism and agri-tourism is really important. So kind of connecting to your neighbours who might be offering other experiences. Work with tour guides, small tour guides who can showcase your products and your opportunities. And as I said before, provide opportunities to work with other experience providers, photographers, cooks, craft creators, yoga instructors, to perhaps use your venue for activities that fit with sort of your goals. Now, I'm not going to have time to talk about the case studies, but I did want to just highlight that there are a range of local case studies. Increasingly, Country Calendar has some really interesting stories about agri-tourism experiences. So just a couple of examples here. Island Hills Station walking track up in North Canterbury, Blue Duck Station, which I think is the only farm to have been showcased on Country Calendar 3 times, according to Dan. And then out of the included in the agri-tourism guidebook we provided, but also included in a range of podcasts, Tawanui Farm and Energy Jet, you will be hearing from Tim shortly, but also Middle Hills Genevieve King and her mountain bike park. So I will leave it there, but hopefully that's provided a very broad and rapid overview of agri-tourism, particularly in the context of New Zealand.
She's done a good job. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was really good, and as always, I've learned. So that is quite good. Selwyn District Council. Selwyn District Council has a very active community and economic development group. They're really promoting Selwyn from the land, and I have a great pleasure to introduce Shay and Claire to actually talk to us in the context of maximizing agri-tourism potential. Ladies, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Wim. So Selwyn is a pathway which visitors arriving in Christchurch pass through, and we want to encourage people to take our scenic routes on their way south and west, experiencing the plains, coast and alpine from mountains to the sea. So you can see the routes there going south and west. Our goals are to encourage locals and their friends and family to visit, raise awareness of Selwyn domestically and partner with other regions to gain international exposure. We also encourage visitors to stay overnight, travel the scenic routes and come to see us pre or post conference or host their business event or function within Selwyn. So what creates our value as a destination and what underpins our brand? Selwyn from the Land celebrates the people and their stories. Our operators are involved in their businesses and can tell their story with passion and energy. They love the place and want to share it with others. Our cultural story is rich and long, and we're working to incorporate mana whenua perspectives appropriately. We produce food, lots of world-class produce. The pasture to plate story is integral to our visitor experience. We're a place of journeys, river, rail and road. The Great Alpine Highway and the inland scenic route Highway 73 are internationally regarded for their scenic beauty. From the land, links our adventure activities, walking and biking, camping, and easy access to alpine environments and nature. We are best at telling our own unique story in all its rawness, natural edges, off the beaten track, and authentic character. Last year, we commissioned a Canterbury tourism study with research insights. Most of the participants were from Canterbury and aged over 18. This research looked at the COVID impact on holidays, preferred types of holidays, and what types of attractions people are interested in. Most people, around 77%, are looking for a quiet and relaxing holiday. When asked about Selwyn, over 1/3 would be interested in an agricultural rural experience. The research found that Selwyn offers many activities and experiences that Canterbury residents are seeking. Boutique and self-catered accommodation is increasing, particularly canopy camping sites, as well as large station and homesteads coming on board to offer agritourism experiences. So I'll hand over to my colleague Shay now to talk about our agritourism strong opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. So kia ora koutou. Pleasure to be here. So just building on from what Claire's saying, Selwyn District Council is on board to boost agritourism in our region. It provides strong opportunities for our residents who live here and for people to visit. So as Joe also mentioned today, Agri-tourism diversifies business, it connects local communities, it encourages collaboration across different business sectors and showcases the work farmers do to the public, and it connects people back to the land and where their food comes from. So the images here highlight Tresillian Truffles, a family-owned business producing high-quality truffles and providing truffle hunt experiences in West Melton. So there's some great examples of agri-tourism in Selwyn with varying levels of operation. So to the left here, you'll see Mount White Station. It's a high country station first established in 1857 near Arthur's Pass that has recently opened to visitors with private walks, biking tracks, beekeeping experiences, and various accommodation options, including backcountry huts and luxury shepherd's quarters. To the top right, you'll see Blueberry Bliss, which is a pick-your-own blueberry farm based in Broadfield, which opens its gates every summer. And it's recently started to offer real fruit ice cream too, which is awesome. And just down the bottom there is Middle Rock Farm Tours, which offers a comprehensive farm experience in the scenic Lake College high country, as well as garden tours and accommodation. So we have a short video to show you of Middle Rock that also features Benley Farm, which is a neighbour close by. Unfortunately, the video doesn't have sound, but it is just a music track in the background. So I'll play this. Hopefully it works. Oh, there we go. Alrighty, and just building on from Jo, what she was saying earlier, that river that you saw at Middle Rock, that's actually an amazing planting and ecological conservation project. So yeah, quite interesting to see that included in their offering as well. So growing agritourism in Selwyn, we're currently doing this through connecting people and sectors with opportunities to collaborate. We are providing business support alongside partners such as Chamber of Commerce, MB and MSD. And we partner with neighbouring regions, including Mid-Canterbury, West Coast and Christchurch to increase exposure to international markets. And we deliver destination campaigns where operators can opt in. So I'll show you a couple of examples of some of our recent campaigns. You might have seen this recently. So agritourism, it's a pillar in all of our destination marketing campaigns. So for example, Meet Us in the Country is our key message for our spring campaign this year, starting on the 1st of September and running to the 1st of December. So the campaign highlights garden open days, AMP shows, tasting local produce, farm visits, recreation like golf, and other spring activities. And another example is Taste Selwyn. So it's the second year running this year. Taste Selwyn is an annual celebration of the best food grown and produced in Selwyn. It showcases our hospitality sector and producers who provide food for our communities. So the participating eateries put up a dish with at least one local ingredient, and storytelling is a key focus as there is a real interest in the people behind the business. So in 2022, all of our community events that featured producers were sold out, which just goes to show the interest in food and locally grown food. Some of those community events also included how to grow your own food as well. So yeah. And just to close off, if you would like to get involved with agritourism and get connected in Selwyn, please contact myself or Claire Quirk, we can provide our details to Katie and the team who can share these after the webinar. So thanks very much. Back to you, Wim.
Thank you so much, Shay and Claire. And now we go and talk to Tim, or at least Tim is going to talk to us. Tawanui Farm Stay, and we can hear it from somebody who is really embracing agri-tourism. Tim, over to you. Floor is yours.
Kia ora, guys. Thanks for having me. Hopefully that's all working now. I've had a few technical difficulties this morning with my PowerPoint. No surprises, probably. Just your classic farmer battling away, but hopefully that's all up and away now. So that's cool. Yeah, so like I said, thanks very much for having me. Katie's just going to have to swap through the slides for me. Yeah, that once we get going, we'll be away. But yeah, so Tawanui Farm, I guess before we go into the tourism, it probably just pay to explain a wee bit about the farm itself and our family situation, because it does sort of tie back into how we got to where we are now. So if we go through to the next slide. So yeah, Tawanui Farm, my parents, Mike and Elspeth Luffnan, still own the farm. I live here with my wife, Jamie. My mum and Jamie both work off farm. The farm is situated in the Blythe Valley, which is about 15 minutes south of Cheviot towards the mouth of the Hiranui River. We're 320 hectares dry land, sheep and beef, about 2,500 stock units. And we're a trading finishing operation, so no breeding stock. And we primarily just finish beef and lamb. So we'll jump through to the next one. Yeah, so just briefly, I guess it's a 5th generation farm on my mum's side, the Murray family. So originally, my mum's brothers, my uncles, got passed down the land. And mum and dad went out on their own farming journey. Dad's from a family farm in Scargill, but his brother ended up getting their place. So they went out on their own farming journey, managing. And yeah, long story short, my uncles decided to get out of it. So mum and dad had the chance to buy back in to this place. So probably the message is, you know, they were young, first-time farmers with not a lot of money, and yeah, took on quite a lot of debt to buy back into the place. And at that stage, it was about 450 hectares. So for the last 30 years, mum and dad have sort of battled away and yeah, kept the place going. And then I sort of came back from overseas, and we sort of had to have some pretty hard conversations. Because yeah, obviously Dad needed someone here, but just with the amount of debt we had, we thought we'd make the tough decision and sell around 120 hectares just to try and get the debt levels down, which was a pretty tough decision, especially for mum, obviously for emotional family ties kind of thing there. So that was quite tough. But anyway, it obviously, yeah, freed up the debt. But then that meant that the farm really could only support one family. And we needed another way of generating more income. And the farm still needed plenty of development in terms of fencing and water. So Dad needed someone here as well to help run the place and crank it up a bit. So yeah, we needed another way of diversification. So if we jump through to the next one. So our options were either we were agricultural contracting at that stage, so we could either sort of carry on with that. It's quite competitive in Cheviot. Machinery at that stage was getting a bit worn out, so we could either invest more and go down that route. So we also looked at other options, you know, whether it was you know, dry land dairy or something that could generate a bit more income. Obviously a bit potentially risky there, obviously being dry land. I'd still like to look at the sheep milking thing in the future, but that's a whole nother conversation. Or our other options were to me and Jamie move off the farm, go and, you know, find other careers. And so we didn't want to do that. So we sort of looked pretty hard at the tourism, and I'll discuss reasons why we moved into tourism. But in 2017, we went down that route, and this is what we came up with. So we'll go to the next slide. So we started Energy Jet on the Huranui River. It's a huge passion of ours, jet boating, mine especially. And this was probably the catalyst for it all. And remember that word passion, because it is very important. The jet boating especially, it's very competitive. Obviously, New Zealand's, that's where the jet boat was invented. There's an operation on every river. So we knew this was going to be a bit of a tough slog, but like I said, that passion is what you need. So we'll just keep going through the next slide. So we do, briefly tell you what we do. We can go right down to the coast. We've got about 100 access to about 180 kilometers, 100 odd kilometers of the river. So we can go right down to the coast, which is pretty amazing where that photo is, all the way up through the river braids on the next slide. And we do sort of river barbecues, very customized sort of trips, with trying to keep that personal sort of feel to it. And yeah, keep going through to the next slide. So it sort of gives you a bit of an idea of the river. And then alongside that, we thought, well, let's how can we get people here to come into the boat? Well, let's just make something obviously accommodation. So this is our finished glamping product. It took quite a few years to get it to where it is now. There's still a few little things to sort of tidy up, but we're pretty stoked with where it is now. So yeah, remember this is 2017 where we sort of started. So we've got 2 geodesic glamping domes with a central sort of a living area hut. So the way we're structured is you get exclusive use of the site. So there's only sort of one group in there at a time, but we can have from 2 anywhere up to 8 people. So the next slide is the shows the inside of the kitchen living area, all pretty rustic. We built most of it ourselves with timber from the farm. And yeah, next one shows inside of the dome. They're both set up pretty well the same. The hot tub there, I think Joe showed that photo before, but yeah, pretty key feature is for us was having the hot tub. So so that gives you a bit of a summary of the glamping. And then from there, we decided to add on some farm tours. So we obviously already had people there. What else can we give them as an option to do while they're here? So we brought a 6-seater side-by-side motorbike, and with the layout of our farm, which I'll explain later why it works really well. The farm tours have been a great addition. We've got a few pet sheep and alpacas there we sort of feed as well. And then we reach the Foxy. So going on to the next one. So why tourism? And that's something you've really got to ask yourself if you're considering doing this. Mum and Dad had done it in the past. They used to, with another farming couple, they used to host probus groups and stuff, doing lunches, buses and that kind of thing, share a sheep and have a yarn about the farm. So they've always sort of done a bit of that. We've always liked hosting people at home and showing people where we live. And that we're, again, passionate. We're really passionate about that. That scene there on the river, that's sort of what we do on the weekends with our mates anyway. So to be able to try and turn it into an income is pretty awesome. So, and it's exciting. And yeah, it's a good return on investment if you do things the right way. But the main thing probably is it's allowed me to remain at home and help get the farm really up to speed. So, and then in turn, Mum and Dad sort of help with the tourism as well. So I guess you've really got to look at your situation. There was a bit of a necessity, like I said, for us to diversify and try something else. So even though we wanted to, we sort of had to. So you've really got to look at your situation to sort of see what drives you, and really you've got to have that passion for it, as I'll explain. And also, yeah, it's sort of fired up mum and dad again. Farm can be pretty tough, as we all know, and so yeah, it's just another thing to sort of help fire them up, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, challenges of probably just highlighted sort of the main ones. Really figuring out what you want to do is probably the big thing. You've just got to think long and hard about it. Yeah, the extra income's awesome, but that can't really be your driver. You've sort of got to look at your whole situation and decide what you want to do. For us, it had to fit around the farm. The farm's still at the moment still the main sort of income earner, so it's got to work around that. The glamping, we're lucky we had a good site access, good water, good location, good access with the track. It's only 5 minutes to get up there and to change it over. The jet boat, the river's only a few minutes away, so nice and easy for pre-boating, checking the rivers, all that kind of thing. And the farm tool, we're rotational graze with our finishing stock, so we're moving the animals sometimes twice a day, so we know that every farm tour they're going to be able to see the farm dogs working the animals. They're going to get a hands-on look at a day-to-day farm. There's all jobs we had to do anyway, so we thought, well, we might as well try and make a bit more, add a bit more value there and take people around while we're doing it. So really it took a lot of time to sort of figure out where we wanted to get to. There are things that I tried. We were selling meat for a while there, which I think would have worked, but I'd sort of stretched myself a bit too thin. So we've pulled that back and just really sort of figured out now that we've sort of got the recipe, the three things that we want to focus on and do well. So it's taken a while to get to that. But so yeah, figure out what you want to do first, think long and hard about that. The next probably challenging thing is the consenting. The plan on the right, there's sort of our current development. We're building it's in the early stages now of building another glamping site. So that's just, we've hired a planner there to help put all the stuff together and submit that to council. So that's obviously a massive thing as well, is obviously finding out if you're allowed to do it, what all your requirements are. So there's a lot of admin and research that goes into that. We've employed someone to obviously help with that process. And that can be costly as well, so it's something to think about. Consenting there, obviously the safe operation plan for the jet boat. I required a resource consent for that as well to operate on the river, so I was able to do all that myself. But you've just got to go and make contact with people, go to the council, have a pre-consent meeting, sit down and work it out with them. Just get them involved with the process early on so they can help you as well. Obviously, that's health and safety as well there. So the next slide is, marketing. Obviously, that's a main one. Obviously, you can have all these amazing products, but if you can't find effective ways to get it out there so people can see it, then it's not doing much good at all. So, initial investment, that's another a big thing depending on what you want to do. Obviously for us, buying a jet boat and building the glamping site, all that takes a bit of a initial spend. So you do have to commit at some stage. You've really got to take the dive and give it a shot. I'm lucky, mum and dad were pretty open to. I've got quite a few crazy ideas, but the same with the farm. The main thing is you got to, if you're really passionate about it, just give it a go. So there is a bit of an investment straight up, obviously, but yeah, if you do it right, I think it's worth it. But then marketing as well. So this was quite a challenge for me, and it still is. It's all pretty new to me. The best thing I did was make sure I sought help from the right people. So yeah, get a marketing guy and just really sit down with them and there's plenty of different options, whether it's marketing plan, business plan, helping you set things up. but things you can just do that don't cost. But it's really getting the help to know where to go, really figure out who your market is, who you want to target, what pricing bracket you want to target. That's quite a challenging thing too, setting your pricing. But yeah, it's really just getting the help. You know, all your rural tourism operators like for us here at Hurunuri Tourism have been fantastic at helping us try and push our products. And, you know, they do a lot of marketing for us, whether it's sending influencers out. Sometimes they'll cover the cost of that too. You know, really just trying to help push us into now after COVID, really trying to crank into the inbound tourism operators. So trying to push products, the packages and that more overseas. But yeah, can be quite overwhelming setting all that up. It takes a lot of time, but just really surrounding yourself with people who can really help you with that. And obviously social media and stuff's quite a fun thing you can do yourself. So there's plenty you can do yourself, but I figured out for a start, you can spend a lot of money with marketing. You got to be careful it's all going, you're getting the best bang for your buck, because it's easy to throw a lot of money at something and not necessarily get the returns that you need. So yeah, it's all just really having a good plan in place. But probably the most important thing is you've really got to have that customer focus. Like I was saying, you can't just, be all about the extra income you're going to receive and not care about your customers, because if you don't look after them, the whole thing's pointless. So it does take a little bit more, it takes a lot of time making sure you send emails back on time, just sort of been at their beck and call, and you've always got to have a smile on your face. But if it's a passion, it's not going to be an issue. So you've really got to ask yourself that hard question before you get into it, is whether you want to deal with people, because that's what you're in. You've got to be able to deal with people well and want to do it, because that's the business that you're in. It's all about your customers, and if you do a good job, you'll get good feedback, and that'll just keep building. So it's the most important thing. The next slide. And yeah, so onto the rewards. Obviously, the financial rewards are there. If you put all that work in, and if you keep that focus on your customer quality, the rewards are there. It's a big commitment, but if you're really passionate about it, it's there. For us, it's been great. Like I said, it's supporting more family members. We're definitely not where we want to be yet. We've still got a lot of work to get where we want to go. But it's awesome. It's bloody cool having, I still love farming, still a big passion of mine as well. So it's just cool having something else to work alongside the farm, and same with mum and dad. Also, minimises the risk. For us, if we've got a really dry summer, the tourism's probably, odds are going to be doing pretty well if that's the case. So, you've got different income coming in from different sources. And like Joe and the others have been saying, it really helps connect people to the farm, be able to explain to people just how a farm works, and how the animals are raised, how we look after them, where their food comes from. It's awesome to be able to explain that to people. Even Dad, he loves doing the farm tours in the area. He's normally not a really outgoing person generally, but to be able to, he really loves it, being able to explain to people about farming and just have that chat with people. And then, it just helps to build your brand. It's for us, it's something we can stand behind. It's something we're proud of. And it really just gives you that feel good factor. And so for us, it's been great. We'll go through to the last slide. Just as a summary, so for us, it's just throw a little bit of marketing in there, just our social media pages, website and stuff. So for us, it's been a really cool process. It hasn't been easy, but if you're really keen to do it and you're passionate about it, like anything, you can make a go of it. And for us, it's been an awesome journey so far, and we're looking forward to carrying on. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, ladies. It is time for Q&A. And so if you have a question for any of our panelists, please move your mouse around, and on the bottom of your screen you see Q&A, and just type in your question and I will read that question up to our wonderful panelists. Let me start with the first one. Joanna, you mentioned COVID and that it had a big effect on agri-tourism. What do you anticipate the effects of the current economic crisis will be on the sector? With a lot less disposable income, with the inflation I think that person is referring to, are consumers still interested in the opportunities? You need to get off mute, Joanna.
It's a good question. And when I first sort of started thinking about what the post-COVID world and consumer demand might look like back in 2020, we were thinking we were going to go immediately into kind of an economic decline. I mean, you know, if we remember back to lockdown, we were thinking that things were going to be tough. We probably didn't picture that being around inflation, but we did know even then that, you know, house prices were going up, and costs of transportation, etc., through the supply chain were going up, costs of building material, all of those kind of things. So yeah, and I think that first trend I mentioned around, you know, a search for a simple life, getting back to basics, partly came out of not just experiences of COVID, but also thinking about potentially having less disposable income and making what income you have go further. It's partly why I sort of think it's really important to have inclusive as well as exclusive experiences, so something across the price range. For example, if we think about food tourism, often when we think about food tourism, we think about exclusive high-end meals and fancy restaurants. But a food tourism experience for a tourist could be having fish and chips on the beach, or having a real fruit ice cream and walking through the berries where that fruit has come from. So I think there's still many opportunities for agri-tourism experiences that may be about getting back to basics. So again, in terms of accommodation, you have kind of high-end exclusive lodges, but you also have camping opportunities in tents or caravans. Things like going for walks in nature, going for bike rides, doesn't actually cost a lot compared with going to a theme park or even going to the movies. So I think there are still many opportunities for actually, you know, slowing down, you know, spending time slowing down, food foraging, learning about cooking from scratch, learning how to grow a vegetable garden. All of these are things that can be part of that experience as well.
Thank you so much, Joe. Shay, Claire, you've touched on what Selwyn District Council is doing. Is there a nationwide initiative to stimulate agritourism in New Zealand?
I guess, thanks, Wim. That's a really great question as well. From our local government perspective, we really just try and keep in touch with what central government agencies are doing. So we're always looking to try and close that gap between the central and the local experience on the ground, and, you know, look for what opportunities there are for us to kind of communicate out to our operators and businesses. We do work with the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and we do work with who have funding streams available, and we do work with MPI who are looking to diversify, you know, help people diversify their income streams. So we really just try and act as a conduit for information. And we also work really closely with the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, who run the voucher system where people can receive one-to-one support from a professional in agri-tourism. So we know that, you know, local people have taken up those opportunities. So we are really happy to talk to anyone if you want to get in touch with us, and, you know, we might know somebody or something that might be of assistance. Shay, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Claire covered that really well. Yeah, in terms of some funding as well, when I think about MB, I know that there's just recently been released the innovation program for tourism recovery that was long awaited. And it's a $54 million contestable fund for projects that have meaningful impact across the tourism system, but that can include new products, new experiences that align with some of those outcomes and values of that fund. Just as an example, I'd recommend having a look at that fund. I think agri-tourism products would align really nicely. Yeah, so there's different funding streams around, and as Claire said, definitely connect either with us or some of the central government agencies for more information. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. Tim, question from one of our attendees. They are interested in who your customers are and whether they are young or old or rich, or if it's domestic, is it international? So, yeah.
Yeah, sort of from all over pretty much. It's quite funny with COVID. The glamping, it's probably primarily a domestic customer base anyway. So that was quite cool to see New Zealanders get out and about and come and stay. It seems to have changed a wee bit with COVID, and then obviously now we're getting more internationals back coming to do the activities as well. Yeah, like I said, I was probably, because we haven't been going for terribly long, then we've had a couple of years of COVID in there. I'm still sort of trying to figure out where certain areas sit, namely the jet boating. But we're just really trying to refine, like I was saying before, refine our package and promote our packages a bit more, because that's probably what our point of difference really is. We can market the whole thing as one. So we're really just giving that a good push now into international markets, whereas the last few years we obviously had to switch back on domestic again. But still sort of, yeah, it's taken time to sort of really figure out where we sit. But yeah, it's been pretty good. Yeah, obviously, yeah, it's been kept going pretty well. It's just trying to see where it's going to sit in the future. But yeah, I said generally going more towards a bit more international, but still that steady domestic base going alongside it. So that's where we're trying to push to anyway.
There's another question for you, Tim, how you actually plan your day, because of course you have on-farm activities, but you have suddenly tourists arriving as well, wanting to have a barbecue somewhere on a riverbed because the weather is nice. How do you cope with these things?
Generally, it's pretty good. Everyone's sort of, you know, most of it's sort of pre-booked, and but like I said, we're close to the river. The way we've set our farm up now with the trading is it's very easy to manage. We've pretty much just got to, apart from obviously the busy times if we're weighing or you know, shearing or anything like that, it's generally pretty easy. You can sort of like it might only take an hour in the morning to do the farm jobs. And then like this afternoon, we've got a farm tour. We'll just work that in with our afternoon shift. And yeah, we're only 10 minutes away from the river. So like I said, you've sort of got to work it in with your situation. And the way we've set it up, it all works in pretty well with the farm. So it took quite a lot of work to figure that out and make sure it all fitted in around the farm pretty easy. So I only probably need an hour's warning to be able to go to chuck the jet boat in, kind of thing. So so yeah, it's just it's taken the time initially to figure that out, where you want to, what product you want to do and how you want it to fit in around your lifestyle or the farm or whatever you've got going. Okay, thank you so much. I think we have a question here for the wider panelist group, so feel free to chip in. When you're looking at opportunities from a high level, what are the key criteria you should consider?
aesthetic value, distance to a highway, distance to a river, ocean, lake, establish local experience. How would you make a prioritization of those before you're actually going to make your decision which part of agri-tourism you need to get yourself involved in? I see Joe with her hand up. Joe.
Yeah, I want to start off. I guess that's the whole principle of marketing. Marketing is often thought about as advertising, but marketing is about understanding both your supply and your demand. So knowing what product you have. So being close to the main highway is great for some target markets, but it may be a detractor for other target markets. So knowing what you have and knowing who your target market is and finding that space between. So I know that some of the farmers I've worked with in North Canterbury have said, oh, but we have no internet coverage, we have no Wi-Fi, we have no cell phone coverage. I'm going, for some for some markets like academics, brilliant. So there's a target market for that, either for, having a team building writing retreat or something, or families who are trying to get their teenagers off screens. So I think there's a market for most products. It's just knowing what product you have and who your market is.
Yeah, just to add to that, Joe, I'd say don't be afraid to look at the competition, what is around you, but not just, I wouldn't frame that as competition either, because what are the opportunities to collaborate? I think that's really important too. Looking around, what's on offer close by, and what can you what's the difference between what you want to offer and they're offering, and maybe is there an opportunity to collaborate? Just positioning yourself, finding your story is really important. And I would also really suggest looking at that regional level, what's the regional story? What are my community's values? Just thinking about how it all aligns. Have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say exactly that, Shay, about the collaboration, and because we're often building itineraries, so we're looking at 1 or 2 day itineraries for people that are, wanting to do multiple things. So if you've got a really good fit with somebody else nearby, it's really a great offering.
Now you just on mute.
Yeah.
Let me fix that. Thank you so much. Tim, what made you decide to do the build yourself versus using an accommodation supplier already in the market? And what made you decide to have a central kitchen area and then the domes separate?
There's a little bit of an accident, I think. We were actually going to put we were going to have sort of a one sort of central living area with a bed in it, and then I sort of found these other Lotus Bell tents, and we sort of like the look of them, and there was a bit of we sort of didn't plan it the way it's taken a wee while to sort of figure out where we've wanted to get it to. It was just a bit of trial and error, really. We sort of had one idea, and then, like I said, it took quite a while before we actually committed to it, a lot of thinking. And then we were really decided to delve into it with what we've got now. So it's probably the tents that we found were quite a cheap way to get into it. And we've upgraded them now. But we thought for a start, well, let's try these, and it would allow us to add more people to be able to come and stay. So whereas initially we were just thinking of sort of a cabin type setup. So that was just a little bit of doing a lot of research, comparing a lot of what was out there, other sites, and just taking your time to really not rush into things. Probably everyone can be guilty of being in a hurry, but I think just really being thorough about your planning and how you want to run it. And like our new one we're going to put in is just going to be for a couple. So because we do all our own washing and stuff. So at the moment, if you've got 2 lots of 8, an 8 staying one night and an 8 staying the next night, it's a lot of washing. So the next one's only going to be 2. So yeah, so we'll still be able to handle it easy. Just little things like that. It just really depends on your situation. Like I said, during the day-to-day, it's sort of me and Dad do it, so it's been good for us to try and learn how to change the beds better and keep things tidy. And then during the weekends, we've got Mum and Jamie and stuff there. So it just depends who you've got. When we build this new one, I'll be able to justify hiring someone probably then full-time. So that's another reason for it too, which will free up more space. So just thinking long and hard about it, really.
Thank you so much. Farm diversification and focusing on consumer demands are hot topics at the moment. In your opinion, and I think this is again for all of the panelists, in your opinion, should tourism be up there as a first consideration for farmers to look at to diversify? Joe, do you think
Shay's just turned off her
no.
Shay,
no,
okay,
you go,
Shay.
Joe.
I was
I'm interested to hear from you first.
I think really I think it really depends on your situation. As Tim has said, you have to think long and hard about what you're going to do. And yeah, your location does come into it. Are you on a main tourist route? Do you have the time, the energy? Are all family members in favour of doing farm tourism? There are some checklists at the start of that modularized guide that sort of takes you through those basic questions. Have you talked to your husband, wife, children about this? So I wouldn't say necessarily for everyone it's a first thought, but I think it is one of the options to consider alongside tree planting or honey production or whatever else. It's just another option.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Joe. As you say, it's dependent on people's situations, and if it's something that you want to venture in terms of telling your story, in terms of sharing it with the community, all that type of thing. So yeah, as Joe said, it's one of many options, but I think it's definitely one to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, I think another option very much worth considering is that option of networking and working with someone else. So it may be, I know I've talked to a lot of the food producers and so on, and they just go, we just don't have time to run tours. We know we've got these great facilities and this great story. But maybe there is a small tour operator in the area. Maybe you could work with them and with other food producers in your district to put together a food tour, of 4 or 5 stops where someone else does all the admin of the bookings and the organizing and the logistics, and you get a share of the benefits. So I think it's one of those things that it's not like all or nothing. You can do it all yourself, but there are also lots of opportunities to work with other people who are looking for interesting products to share with tourists. And so I think working with finding someone who wants to run little local tours, whether it's international tourists or Probus groups or University of the Third Age or whatever, and actually working with them. I know one of the operators I was talking to said that they had 40 people from a sort of a women's institute or a seniors club come and visit, and all they had to do was put on afternoon tea and tell them a little bit about their place, and it was worth $2,000 to them. So I think there are lots of different ways to be involved.
And just two more cents from me on that. I think tourism, it's a broad term, and so it depends on the scale of operation. You don't have to go out and open a whole new accommodation facility on your property. You could do a farm gate, or you could just allow visitors for an hour. It sort of depends where you're at, and just to think about that sheet you showed, Joe, on your slide with all of the different types of tourism. Just really consider the bigger spectrum as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we're coming to the end of this session, this innovation series. I think what we'll do when we send you out the video of this, or the recording of this innovation series, We will include the website of the book or the guide that you referenced, Joanna. And I think looking at things, Shay, one of the things that you said, or I think it was you or Claire said it, that people that are actually involved in agritourism, that they could link through the teams that the local councils and the local tourism bodies are actually doing. And so if you could send a link to me so that we can actually include that in there as well, so that when people are wanting to see, okay, what are the teams for the next period for Selwyn District, so that they can actually link into that if they are actually promoting their agritourism.
There is a question specifically asking about that. How can we see?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so, perfect. We can do that. That's no worries. And just a wee plug, I think it is important, if you're not from Selwyn as well, look at your local councils or economic development agencies as well. As Tim mentioned, he's with the Hiranui, and I work alongside them. They're great. So just even if you're not from Selwyn specifically, and if you are, feel free to contact us, but always look local first as well. We don't know what support is out there too.
Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you, Tim, Joe, Shay, and Claire, for you being with us. Thank you so much for listening to us. B-Link Innovation Series, part of Lincoln University, and you will get a recording emailed to you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.